We have Adams Hill site.
Guys, 904 Foxtrot, enter left base, runway 18, contact the tower, 118.7, good day.
Alright, enter left base, runway 18 and tower 18.7. Have a good day, 904 Foxtrot.
Yeah!
Adams Tower, good morning. Skog 519 for Foxtrot on a 12-mile left base, runway 18.
1904 Foxtrot, Adams Tower, runway 18, cleared land.
Alright, clear to land, runway 18, 904 Foxtrot.
Hello YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of Non-Rev Stories, flight stories from a non-rev. On this episode of Non-Rev Stories, we head to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to see my sister. Before we get into this video, let's talk social media. Green Brothers Flying is on every main social media platform. We are on Instagram at Green Brothers Flying, on Facebook as Green Brothers Flying, and on Discord. All links will be in the description below. Now, let's get into this video. On September 5th, I decided to fly out to Pittsburgh to see my sister since I hadn't seen her in a while. The day started bright and early for me as I had to get up at 5 a.m. to catch my 7:30 a.m. flight to Charlotte, North Carolina. The aircraft I was to take was a CRJ 900. We left out of gate number 5. After arriving at the airport, I went through security and realized I had some time, so I went to Chick-fil-A to get some much needed breakfast. Now, let's get into this video. On September 5th, I decided to fly out to Pittsburgh to see my sister since I had seen her in a while. The day started bright and early for me as I had to get up at 5 a.m. to catch my 7 a.m. flight to Charlotte, North Carolina. The aircraft I was on was a CRJ 900. We left out of gate number 5. After arriving at the airport, I went through security and realized I had some time, so I went to Chick-fil-A to get some much needed breakfast. Shortly thereafter, boarding started. I got an exit seat, so that meant extra legroom for me. 30 minutes later, we taxied to the runway and took off of runway 4 right. After a quick hour and 40 minutes, we landed in Charlotte. Our arrival time in Charlotte was 10 a.m. As we were taxiing in, I realized that I wouldn't make the flight I had booked due to it being oversold, so I decided to get on the 11:35 a.m. flight, which had plenty of seats open. That flight was operated by an Airbus A319. Once I got my boarding pass and seat 10A, I boarded and settled in for the short 1-hour flight to Pittsburgh. After boarding was completed, we taxied to runway 36 center and took off. We cruised at an altitude of 33,000 feet. An hour later, we landed and taxied to gate B Bravo 2. Since I had taken an earlier flight, I had to wait for my sister for 2 hours, which wasn't a problem since I was hungry and got some food and hung out. Once 3 p.m. local time rolled around, my sister showed up and off we went to her place so I could put on some much comfier clothes and freshen up a bit. That only lasted about 30 minutes, then it was out the door again to the public rail where we would take it into downtown Pittsburgh to get some food at this local bar. I had a drink and a mac and cheese grilled cheese with tater tots and homemade chips. After some time, we decided to Uber back home and just hang out for the night, and around 8 p.m. local time, I fell right asleep. It is 5 a.m. the next morning, Friday, September 6th, and I am up and ready to go to the airport so I can catch my 8:40 a.m. flight back to Charlotte. After about 45 minutes in the car, we arrive at the airport and I say goodbye to my sister. I walked into the airport, waited about 25 minutes in the security line, and then went to my gate Bravo B30. On this flight, the aircraft was an Airbus A320, and the flight was a quick 1 hour and 15 minutes. At 9:55 a.m. local time, we landed and taxied to our gate. Upon looking at my flight back to Little Rock, I realized that I was not going to make it on, but still decided to go to the gate and check it out. Truth to be told, I did not make it on and wouldn't make it on any other flight, so I decided to look for alternate options. I know that our last Chicago flight to Little Rock is usually empty since it is so late, so I decided to go from Charlotte to Chicago. I had the gate agent transfer me onto the O'Hare flight that was supposed to leave at 11:55 a.m. but was delayed until 2:30 local time. I did not care as that allowed me to get some much needed food, Panda Express, and meet up with one of my friends that lives in Charlotte, David Ferrillo. At about 1:45 local time, I headed to the gate and just stood there waiting for my name to be called. On this flight, the aircraft was a Boeing 737-800. My gamble paid off as I had gotten first class, which was also my first time in first class on a mainline flight, to Chicago. After boarding, we once again taxied to runway 36 center and took off. We had a planned cruise altitude of 40,000 feet, flight level 400, since we were light, but since it was so bumpy, we had to work our way down to flight level 240, 24,000 feet. After the quick 1 hour and 30-minute flight, we landed in Chicago and taxied to the gate. At this point, it is 3:30 p.m. local time, and I still have 5 hours until my next flight to Little Rock, which leaves at 8:30 local time. So, in those 5 hours I walk around and just relax, as it's been a full day of traveling. Finally, at 8 p.m. local time, we start to board, and to my surprise, the flight filled up, but there was still a few seats open. Since I was number one on the standby list, I took the last first class seat open, seat 1F, and the other standby had to sit in the back. We were the only two standbys to make it on that flight. The flight was a very short 1 hour and 40 minutes at an altitude of flight level 360 or 36,000 feet. Once the hour and 40 minutes was up, we landed on runway 22 right and taxied to gate 1 and deplaned. After I got off the plane, I walked to my car and drove the 45 minutes home and got home around midnight. If you like hearing about my non-rev experiences, please consider liking this video, leaving a comment, and of course subscribing to the channel. Your subscription is the biggest thank you I can get to making more of these videos. Until the next video, blue skies and a tailwind.